Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to the BU podcast. I'm your host, Ariel Von Bretter. My mission is to empower people to become the best versions of themselves so that they can live their best lives. I'm redefining success so people stop living the lives they think they should live and start living the lives they love. Join me weekly as I share my own insights and speak with guests that have embraced their unique gifts into living life on their terms. I hope these conversations inspire you to make the most out of your life by being your best self. Remember, be you, be beautiful. Hey, you guys, thanks for joining me for another episode of the BU podcast. I'm really excited to share this conversation with you all today. But first, I do have to apologize because the audio on my end is not the best. And I think it was just because I was so fired up talking that I just couldn't sit still and wasn't by my microphone the whole time. So apologies for that. So I hope you bear with me and lessons learned on my part. But anyway, moving on to the episode, I got to speak with Dr. Denise Moore Revel, and Dr. Denise is a speech pathologist, a best-selling author, a speaker, and a personal development coach. She is the founder of the Own Your Amazing movement to empower women to find their unique voice and live their amazing life. I am all about it. I love it. And I absolutely loved our conversation about finding your own voice. And I really love what she's doing with the Own Your Amazing movement. And I just can't wait to hear what you all get out of this conversation and really just live into your amazing, own your amazing. And, let us know what you thought. Enjoy. Before we get into the show, I wanted to take a moment to share how I host my podcast using Anchor. It's free and easy to use. You can record and edit using your phone or computer, and then Anchor distributes your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms. It's super easy to use, and they do the work for you. I highly recommend using Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Now, on to the show. Dr. Denise, thank you so much for being on the BU podcast today. Will you just take a moment to tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are?
I'm Dr. Denise Moore Revel. I call myself an urban belle. I know most people are like, what is that?
I'm already intrigued. What is that?
Yeah. So I was born in an urban city. I was born in Washington, D.C. I was actually raised in a small town in North Carolina. So instead of being a Southern belle, I'm an urban belle.
I love it.
And so I've had the privilege of living in both worlds, living in the South, but also, born and raised in an urban area. And I've been actually living in the Washington, D.C. area for over 25 years now. So I just enjoy family, I enjoy friends, I enjoy hanging out, having a good time. But professionally, I've been a speech language pathologist for over 25 years now. And I work primarily with young children who come with all different types of speech impediments or language difficulties. But about 4 years ago, I started a movement called the Own Your Amazing movement. And so I can't wait to share more about that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that. But I would love to hear a little bit more about how you got into your career and working as with children, especially with speech and stuff. So tell me a little bit how you got into that.
Yeah, actually, when I went off to college, I was undecided. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so this class that they had for freshmen were for undecided majors.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would have different people to come in throughout, each week to talk about different careers. And so someone came in as a speech pathologist. And I was like, what is that? And so the more I learned about it, the more I was very intrigued, but also very moved with helping people to communicate. And so it kind of fell in my lap. But as my family, they would say I've been talking since, talking at the womb. I just love communicating with people. I love connecting with people. And I love being able to help people who have a challenge with that.
Yeah.
So, one of the quotes that I have up I have a private practice, and on the wall on my office, it has communication is the foundation of human connection.
Mm-hmm.
We connect as human beings through communication, right?
Yeah.
So if you have someone who has an issue with that, it's really hard for them to connect on a human level with other human beings.
Definitely.
And so to be able to help, especially young children, to help them to learn and to develop their speech and their language so that they can thrive and be confident and go out and change the world. I just think it's a privilege to be able to help them to do my part in helping them to be better communicators.
Yeah, I love it. And it's like, it's definitely, when you get them started young and having that confidence to be a good communicator, like that is just so important because, yes, everything is based off of communication. And I think it's kind of sad because, with like the work that I do and seeing things like communication is something that I think people still have to constantly work at. But
Mhm.
sometimes you find like, how do people not know some like basic communication skills? So
Right.
I think it's something everyone needs to, work on, and especially getting started on. I think that's really great. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today was the power of your own voice. And
Hmm.
so I'm kind of curious, since you said that you've always been communicating and talking out of the womb. Did you did you always feel like that your voice had power, or what was that kind of journey for you?
Oh, great question. And so even when I talk about voice, I talk more about it's more about your own sense of self, right? Even though I talked a lot, there were times in my life I did not feel heard
Yeah,
or that it was appropriate for me to talk. I grew up in an area where it said, I was told children should be seen but not heard.
right.
And so I was just blessed to have great parents who did encourage me to talk and communicate and share my ideas. But that was not necessarily the case once I got outside of home.
Hmm.
When I got into school, it was may not have been well received to talk and communicate and share ideas. And so there were times in my life that I did lose my voice. I did lose my sense of self and who I was. And so when I talk about voice, it's really showing up as who you are, expressing fully who you are, and not allowing other people's voices to drown out your own sense of what it means to live your own life. And so I did struggle with that for many years. Um, but I think one turning point for me was when it was time for me to choose a college. And so there was one particular school that everyone assumed I was going to attend. Great school, family members had attended there, but I just felt like it was not going to be a good fit for me.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the courage, the confidence to speak that, to say it, right?
Hmm.
So the story goes where it was time to apply for colleges, and I applied to different schools.
Hmm.
And so then months go by and people, started getting acceptance letters to these different colleges, right? So I
Yeah.
got acceptance letters from this college and that college. And my dad was like, hey, did you get your acceptance letter from this particular school? And I was
Hmm.
like, no. Okay. 2 weeks go by. He's like, did you get your acceptance letter from this particular school? I was like, no. And so I think he was beginning to get suspicious, right?
Yeah.
So finally, he asked me one more time, "Have you gotten your letter from this particular school?" He said, "I heard that other people who applied there got their letter." I said, "Well, no, Dad, I hadn't gotten my letter yet." So finally, I said, "I have got to tell my dad the truth, right?"
Yeah.
And so I said, "Well, Dad, we need to have a conversation. We need to talk. I need to share something with you." I said, "Well, the reason why I have not gotten a letter from that particular school is because I never applied.
Yeah.
I never applied." And to say that he was a little upset with me,
I was like, how did that conversation go?
yeah. And so I didn't apply, but I did not I didn't feel like I had the voice to say to him, to my guidance counselor, to my family man, like, I don't want to go there. But finally I said, Dad, I don't want to go there. I don't
Hmm.
think that's a good fit for me. And so I felt at that point was when I got my voice. I got
Yeah.
my power. It was like, I have to speak up for me. I have
Hmm.
to use my power to make a decision about my own life.
Yeah.
I can no longer allow other people's voices to silence mine. It's like, I didn't want to go. I didn't
Right.
want to go. And so once I shared that with him, he totally got it. He said, I get it. I hear you. Okay, where do you want to go? And so that really gave me the taste of like, using the power of my own voice to create my own life.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great example because I think so many people can relate to that, especially like when you have a family that all goes to a particular college and like that's just like
Yes,
the expectation, or even
mhm,
if it's like what if someone expects you to be in like a certain career because it's like the family thing and this is like,
absolutely.
but I don't really want to do that. But then, we're so afraid to kind of speak up for ourselves. And I love when you finally do speak up for yourself and then people are like, oh, okay, like I get it. Like, what do you want to do? Because we think like, it's so scary. Like, what are they going to think and stuff? And I know, like, for everyone, people aren't always going to accept it, but it is good when the people that support you do accept your decision because then it just kind of gives you that power to keep
And that's
speaking
a
up
good
for
point you
yourself.
made. That's a good point you made because there have been other times in my life when I did speak up and people were not receptive to it.
Yeah.
They were like, "What are you doing? Are you kidding me? Why are you doing that?" One particular incident was when I started my private practice, when I started business, going into business for myself. It
Yeah.
was like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that? You need to keep your job." And at the time, I quit a very great job. I quit. I
Hmm.
was a supervisor. I ran a department, but I quit because
Yeah.
I was like, it was time for me to start my own practice. I wanted to do it. That's what I wanted to do. That's how I wanted to express myself professionally.
Hmm.
And no, everybody was not on board. They was like, "You're gonna quit a good job to start your own practice, your own business." I'm like, "Yeah, I want to give it a shot." You know, so
Yeah. So tell me
yeah.
more about that, because like what helped you to kind of overlook those voices and keep pushing through of like, no, this is what I'm gonna do, and I feel confident in that because a lot of times someone can say like, oh, I'm gonna quit and start my own practice, and then someone comes along and is like, no, that's not a good idea, and then like they never get started because they let the fear of other people's like what other people say get in. So like, what made you have that ability to kind of ignore those voices and keep moving forward?
It was just again, I had gotten to a point in my life where my own sense of happiness, fulfillment, feeling on living on purpose,
Yeah.
that was greater than someone else's opinion about what I should do with my life. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
um, I really had to talk to myself and really encourage myself and like, you can do this, you got this, give it a
Mhm.
try. I told myself, if all else fails, you can go back and get a job. It's not like it's in the world, but I felt like I owed it to myself to try, to
Mhm.
give me a chance. You know, and so I just had to keep talking to myself, especially in the beginning when things weren't happening great, and there were times even in the process over the years where I had this great contract and then it ended. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? But I had to keep telling myself, listening to myself, don't turn back, keep moving forward.
Mhm.
Because everyone was telling me all these statistics about how businesses fail the first 5 years. Like,
Right.
thank you for telling me that. So I could not focus on that. And I kept
Right.
telling myself, that's not going to be my story. That
Mhm.
is not going to be my story. I'm going to be able to do it. And so I'm in my, I think, 16th year now.
Oh, awesome.
So it really matters what you tell yourself. That's why your own voice, what you're saying to yourself, matters the most. It really does. It
Yeah.
really, really does. That's the power of your own voice, listening to yourself, telling yourself you can do these things, believing in yourself. That's the most important thing ever. I'm telling you, it's the game changer.
Yeah. Well, I love that too, and that you bring that up because, when I was thinking about like the power of your own voice, I was just kind of thinking of like, knowing what you stand for and being
Mhm.
able to communicate that to others. But it's definitely internally too. Like you've got to talk to yourself positively, and so that you can build that belief in yourself and create that foundation.
Absolutely, because what I know for sure is our own voice, what we tell ourselves, is the most powerful voice.
Hmm.
Because there be people in my life, your life, to say, "Hey, my God, you're so amazing! You can do this, this thing." They can see it. They can see we have the capabilities, the potential to do great things.
Yeah.
But what do we tell ourselves? We'll talk ourselves out of it.
Right.
We'll talk ourselves out of it. While
Yeah.
everyone else is like, "You're amazing. You got this. You can do it." And we'd be like, "No, I don't think so. I don't know enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't have this. We'll talk ourselves right out of it. So
Yeah.
my job for me is I try to talk myself into it.
Yes, I love that. And so why do people talk themselves out of it? Like why is it so much easier to do that? And why do people struggle with finding their voice?
Unfortunately, we have been trained, conditioned through our families, through the society, just to not to believe in ourselves, to
Yeah.
listen to other people, to believe other people's voices and opinions to matter more than our own. I just think we've been trained to do that. And
Yeah.
so owning your amazing is like retraining yourself to say, no, I get to own it for myself. I get to
Mhm.
define success for myself. I get to define my life for myself. I get to create my work life balance, whatever that may look like. I get to define it for myself. And so I encourage people to look within, to say, well, what is it that you really want? Not what you should want, not what other people say you should want, but what is it that you really want? And
Yeah.
getting really in touch with that.
Yeah, and I was, gonna ask, like, what is one step that someone can take to start to find that power of themselves and really identify that? And I mean, it kind of sounds like to look within and figure out what you really want. So, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong. If you have like another action step, please share it. But then, like, what do you recommend for people to really find like what they actually want?
It's funny when I start working with clients, that's the first question I ask them.
Hmm.
And it's the hardest question.
Yeah.
It really is. I like, what do you want? And they was like, well, I don't want this. I don't want that. Well, I should want this and I should want. And
Hmm.
I keep saying, what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want? What do you like? What lights you up? What sets your soul on fire?
Yeah.
And we're not taught to ask ourselves these questions. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Think about careers. When we think about going to college, going to a career, we're not normally asked, what do you like? What do you want to do? We usually say, well, this is a good profession. You can make money in this one or this one. It's a different criteria, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, what do you like? What do you want to do? Or someone say, oh, I want to do this, but there's no money in that. But that's what I
Mhm.
like. That's what sets me on fire, you
Yeah.
know? And so I think if we just take the time to be reflective, to get quiet, to get still, to say and really listen, because again, we've been so busy with doing everything, running to and fro. We've been so busy listening to everyone else that we really don't take the time to hear ourselves.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I do with my clients, I say, like, what kind of ice cream do you like? And they was like, chocolate. I said, how do you know you like chocolate? You really like chocolate? Is that what you really like? And they were like, I don't know. It's like something that's like, I'm like, do you really like it? Or do you really like something else? Would you? And
Yeah.
he was like, oh yeah, okay. It's like, well, I like this chocolate from this particular ice cream brand. Great. You know what I'm saying? It's like, get specific. Like, what is it that you really like? you know?
Yeah.
And so that is the first step. And it sounds simple, but it's very powerful. It is
Yeah.
very, very powerful because here's the thing. I wrote a book, and one of the my favorite chapters in the book is called Divine Design. I mean, I believe in a creator that created everyone to be special, unique, and amazing.
Mhm.
And so, with that, you have to really look and say, well, who am I? Who am I? What do I come with? What kind of characteristics? What kind of traits? What do I like? What makes me happy? What makes me feel fulfilled? And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, we spend weeks just on that, like, well, who are you? What do you want? And what do you like? Because
Yeah.
most of the time, we just don't take the time to discover that for ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because it should feel like simple, like, oh, I like this, like it's obvious, but it's like, no, you gotta really think because yeah, like we're, conditioned and trained to like, just spit out the easy answer or the answer that's like acceptable.
Yes.
Um, but then to like really dig deeper and think of like, what do I specifically enjoy and like? And
Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely see that taking some time. Like right now, I'm just like, I need to do some journaling about these questions because I'm like, I don't know the answer.
And what's funny is like, you would discover things about yourself that you didn't really know, which is kind of crazy because you're with yourself 24 hours a day, but it's like,
Right.
but it's this whole thing about personal development and self-discovery. Like, well, who am I? Because as I'm getting older, some things that was important to me 20 years ago, they're not important to me anymore. Or
Right. Yeah.
not important to me before, they're now important to me. Like, who am I? What is the priority for my life? What do I like now? What
Yeah.
do I want to do now with my life? But if I don't take the time to answer those questions, then I'll keep just going, 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 and wondering why I'm not happy, why I'm not fulfilled, because the things that used to fill me up, they don't fill me up anymore. They
Yeah.
don't. And
So
it's
do you,
okay.
yeah, and I mean that's a good point to like think about, like, life changes and you change as a person, and things will be things that you're interested in will be different and stuff. So I mean, do you recommend for people to do like check-ins with themselves on a regular basis, and like what does that look like?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, yes. If not daily, check in, but at least weekly. And one of the things you said, journaling. I've
Hmm.
been journaling for years, and I continue to do that. That's my space to kind of really get my thoughts out and for me to mull over things and what do I think about this and which direction do I want to go. Like for me, like I said earlier, I've been living in the Washington D.C. area for over 25 years now, and so
Hmm.
now it's like, well, I want to move back south.
Yeah.
I do. It's like, well, why do you want to move back south? It's like, oh, I want a different quality of life now.
Hmm.
I want to reconnect with my family.
Yeah.
So my priorities have shifted. When I first came to the areas to go to college and get a job, I don't want that anymore. I don't want the hustle and bustle anymore. I
Yeah.
want a different lifestyle now. I want to grow a garden. Recently I said, was talking with somebody. I'm like, now I want to be a beekeeper. I never thought I want to get some bees and have some honey in the backyard. It's like, oh, that sounds fascinating. Oh, I want to learn about that. So we can grow, we can change, but if we don't stop and check in and tell my and give yourself permission to say, this is who I am now, and this is what I want my life to look like. Not we just keep going, and I'm telling you, we'd be unhappy, unfulfilled, bitter, tired. Like life is not, great, but life should be amazing.
Yeah.
It should be exciting. You should want to get up every day. It was a statistic I read about at least 80% of the people hate their jobs. Can you imagine?
Yeah, it's so sad. And then I was
Really?
just thinking, like, even with our careers, I think at one point it was like, you're supposed to get a job and stay there for 40 years and then you're all
Mhm.
set. But it's like, it's okay if your original dream isn't the same, doesn't stay the same, and you want to switch to something else. And I love that you said give yourself permission, because
Yes.
it's like you really do have to give yourself permission. Like, you don't need permission from anybody else, but like yourself to make those changes.
And
Um,
that is again so key. Give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to grow, to change, to evolve, to be different. A good friend of mine, she has been an attorney for many years, but she wants to open up a restaurant. But
oh
she's
wow.
having a she's having a hard time letting go of. I put so much time and energy into becoming an attorney and all these things. And what are people going to think? I was like, it doesn't matter what they think, but are you happy being an attorney? At the end of
Right.
the day, is this really what you want to do? And it's not. And
Yeah.
it's and so
Uh,
I just keep encouraging her, have the courage again to speak, to use your own voice, your own power to speak what you want your life to look like. If you want to go
yeah.
open a restaurant, go open a restaurant.
Yeah. I
You
feel
know?
like that's like a whole nother, like, we could have like a whole nother conversation about like how to like make that change. And
Yes,
yeah, I love it. But you mentioned your book a little bit ago, so I just wanted to highlight that. And so will you tell us a little bit about the book you were referring to and where people can find it?
absolutely. I would like to give a little backstory about the book.
Yeah.
I never thought I would be an author. That was not on my radar, right?
Yeah.
When I was in high school, my senior year in high school, my English teacher told me I was one of the worst writers he had ever had.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
We'll prove him wrong.
And I was like, and writing has always been a challenge for me.
Yeah.
I'm a better talker than I am writer. I've known that all my life about myself, right?
Yeah.
So the little confidence I had in my writing up to that point, it was just squashed. I was like, oh my God, it's like, okay. I try not to let his words said to me affect me,
Yeah.
right? I try not to, but it did. So fast forward, I started to Own Your Amazing Movement. My business coach, she was like, you need to write a book. And I was like, I can't write a book. My English teacher told me I was a terrible writer. That's exactly what I had told her, said to her. You know what I mean? Because I was still listening to his voice,
Yeah.
right? And so she was like, really? I said, yeah, I can, I just can't do that. And so then she said to me, she said, well, what if you can write a book that it can impact someone's life?
Yeah.
I said, oh, you got me there. Yeah, I got to write the book. So that's why I wrote the book. And it was always on the premise that if I can help at least one person, it was worth it, you
Yeah.
know? And so I wrote the book, and it's called Own Your Amazing, Discover Your Power to Create an Amazing Life. We have the power to create whatever kind of life we want to create if we only take it.
Yeah.
And so in the book, I talk about, like I said before, divine design, understanding how special, how unique, how amazing we really are. And if we only got that one principle, that would change your life, really.
Yeah.
Because we are the only ones like us on the planet. Ever have been, currently, and ever will be. Will never be another me or another you. And we need to really embrace that and celebrate that. But we have to work so hard not to hear other voices that tell us that we're not pretty enough, we're not thin enough, we're not smart enough. All these critical things that we take in, and it keeps us from really owning that we are amazing.
Yeah.
And so I talk about that. I talk about affirming your own brilliance, meaning if no one else thinks you are, hot stuff, you got to think it for yourself. You got to know I'm good, I'm okay as I
Right.
am. I talk about surrounding yourself with people who are going to celebrate you, who are going to encourage you to be you. And so I also talk about in the book about how we are created on purpose and for a purpose. It's no accident that we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just have to live out why we were created. What we had to create, you have to live out why we showed up to the planet. It's like, why are you here on the planet? What are
Yeah.
you going to do? Not to just take up space. But you
Mm-hmm.
really came to give your gifts. And then finally, I'll talk about sharing your brilliance with the world. The gifts, the talents, the things that we have, they're not for ourselves, they're for other people.
Yeah.
But if we don't ever give it, we don't ever show up, no one can be blessed by our brilliance.
Right.
And so that's what the book is about. And in some of the chapters in the book, there are little exercises to do to really hone in on the principle that I'm teaching in that particular chapter. And so oftentimes, for an example, when I talk to people who want to start their business, they're like, well, I don't want to do this because someone else already does that. Well, you're right. There are a lot of businesses that do exactly what you do, but they can't do it exactly the way you do it.
Mm-hmm.
You bring a different perspective. You bring
Yeah.
a different, ideas to it. Like for an example, a lot of people have podcasts, but nobody has a podcast exactly like yours. That's
Right.
why it's
Yeah.
important that you do yours. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, what if McDonald's and Wendy's said, I'm not going to do a burger because, Burger King has a burger. Well, that's like everybody can do their burger.
Right.
And everybody's burger is different, and everybody can appreciate the different hamburgers. Some like Wendy's, some like McDonald's. But the point is, we are here to share ourselves with the world so the world can benefit from our brilliance.
Yes. Oh, I love it. And just like, I love that you share your story about like writing the book and not wanting to because you still had this story in your head of your English teacher saying you were like the worst writer. And I just feel like it's so powerful because, you're talking about like the power of your voice, but you still have to deal with those challenges of like the stories that creep up and just proving him wrong because listened to your own voice and told yourself like a different story and looked at it from a different perspective. So like I just feel like
Absolutely.
like the whole premise of you writing this book and getting it out there, just like so many levels of like power towards your whole concept.
Because I was afraid. It was so funny. The manuscript was done, edited, put together, and it was time for me to launch it. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't put it out there. But then I heard my own voice.
Yeah.
I heard myself say, if it can help at least one person, it was worth it. I didn't listen to my English teacher at that point. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I listened to myself and I said, if it can help at least one person, it's worth it. If
Yeah.
one person can get something from the book, one nugget, one sentence, one thing that can change their lives, it was worth it. It was
Yeah.
totally worth it. So we gotta be mindful of what we're saying to ourselves about ourselves. It's so key.
Yeah.
That's the
So,
power of your own voice.
yeah. And so tell me a little bit more about this Own Your Amazing movement and like where did this idea like really stem from?
Okay, another story. It's a good one. So again, I was on this journey of self discovery. Like, well, who am I? I remember graduating from college with a master's degree. I was out having my friends gave me a party, and we're having a good time. And then I just got depressed, you know. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, is this it for me? Is there more to life than this? I did everything they said, but I'm still not happy. This is this it, And so that kind of really started the journey for me, like really looking within and trying to figure out my life. So fast forward, I had, read lots of self-help books, went to conferences. So this one particular conference I went to, I had gone out to dinner the night before the conference began with an attendee. So we were just talking, getting to know one another, great conversation. So the next day in the conference, every attendee had a chance to come to the front of the room for the facilitator to kind of coach you and all those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
But the funny part is that people who had gone up there before me, they were crying and all this kind of stuff. So I'm sitting in my chair thinking, like, I am not going to cry when I go up there. I don't know why I'm crying. I mean, okay, I'm just here to get my life, right? So
Yeah.
here I go up there. As soon as I sat down, I started crying. I just started boo-hooing. And she was like, oh my God, what's wrong? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm not happy. And I don't know why. And
Yeah.
so I was like, I just need to figure out how to be happy and to feel like I'm living on purpose. Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? The things that I'm doing, is that really what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
So the lady who I gone out to dinner with the night before, the attendee, she
Mhm.
raised her hand and she was like, I know what's wrong with you. Right. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, we just met. How do you know what's wrong with me? I've been on this journey of self discovery for years. How are you going to, all that's going through my head. Right. But I just
Mhm.
looked at her and I said, oh, okay. I said, so what's going on with me?
Mhm.
She said, you're smart, you're brilliant, you're beautiful, you're talented. She said, but you don't own it. She said,
Mm.
you need to own your amazing and stop playing small.
Ooh.
I was like, that's it. I was like, that's it. People in the room were like, oh my God, I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, like
I
that's
was like,
powerful.
that is it. And I thanked her for saying that to me. It was life changing because she also gave me the language. She languaged for me what I had really been feeling. I knew there was more for me to do.
Yeah.
I knew there was so much more for people around me to do. It's like, we should be doing so much more. We should be
Mhm.
doing amazing things. We should be living lives that we are excited about.
Yeah.
But I wasn't, and the people around me was not either.
Right.
And so that was the start of it. She was the words for the Own Your Amazing movie. So that's how. So I'm encouraging people to really show up for yourself in your own life, to really take your power back and create a life that is amazing. It's a quote that said, a lot of people live a life of quiet desperation.
Oh, yeah.
They're just going through the motions. They're unhappy in their marriages. They're unhappy at their jobs. They're just unhappy.
Right.
And they're just going through it. And it's like trying to survive life. That was not what this was designed to be. We
Mhm.
can create an amazing life. You can do whatever you want to do that makes you happy, but we have to have the guts and the courage to go about doing it.
Yeah.
And it takes courage. Trust me. It takes
Yeah.
courage. It does. It does. Because like we said before, everybody's not going to be on board.
Right.
But when you have enough strength from within to say, this is what I'm going to do because this is my life. And
Mhm.
this is what's going to make me happy and fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
And
the
so,
message. That's the
yeah,
movement.
I love it. And like tell me like exactly like what does Own Your Amazing like what is that like really look like and feel like for somebody?
It looks like and feel like what we just said before is you getting really clear as to what it is you want your life to look like.
Yeah.
And then going about creating that,
Yeah.
owning who you are, owning your life, living truly authentically. Own you, own that you are amazing. A lot
Yeah.
of times we don't think that we're amazing, but we got to own it. And when we own it, we're happier, we're more fulfilled, we're going about life just really doing that thing, whatever that thing may be. We're doing it. We're on it. You know,
Yeah.
life is really great. And here's the thing: I want to make sure I pinpoint is that, and it's whatever you say that it is that makes your life amazing. What makes my life amazing to me may not make it amazing to someone else, and that's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. Someone might say, well, I want to live in the countryside. That's amazing to me. Someone else might say, well, no, I want to live by the beach. Okay,
Mhm.
go do that. You know,
Yeah.
if you want to live by the beach, don't live in a high-rise apartment in New York City. Go live by the beach. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Don't
and that's
go
such
live by
a
the beach. If
yeah,
that's
like that's a good point too, because like to really remind yourself that it's like whatever you want and amazing looks different for everybody. Because I think that's the other thing is like people kind of get sucked up into the like, well, this is like the key to success, or this is what a successful life
yes,
looks like. But no, it really is whatever you want and whatever is going to make you happy and make it feel most fulfilling for you.
absolutely. Some of my friends and family laugh because I do have a private practice, speech
Mhm.
therapy.
Yeah.
I only go in the office 3 days a week.
Okay.
And people ask me, like, why do you do that? Because that's what I want.
Yeah.
Created that for myself.
Right.
It was like, do you work weekends? No, I do not work on weekends. Why not? Because I don't want to work on weekends.
Mhm.
It's just that simple.
Yeah.
I work long hours on the days that I'm there, but I'm only in there 3 days a week
Right.
because my father, bless his heart, he's when I first kind of got my work schedule like that, and he would call me or I would call him in the middle of the day.
Uh-huh.
He's like, "Why you're not at work? You need to go to work." But he came from the mindset that you have to work a 40-hour work week.
Right, yeah.
This is what work looks like, Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week. Well, that's not what my work life looks like.
Yeah.
And so, again, we get to define what it is. And I think what's interesting, especially with this pandemic that has happened, that a lot of people, are telecommuting or
Mhm.
they're doing work differently. Now they're just
Right.
you can do work differently. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We are redefining what work looks like.
Mhm.
You really can do that, So
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
I love it. I've always
wonderful.
been like just a believer that you can have your own work schedule and like you don't have to always be on like someone else's timetable and stuff. And I mean, I think that's one of the kind of positives that's come out of this pandemic is that we've kind of
Mhm.
reevaluated what our work life really looks like. And that there are other options and that people can work from home and have that flexibility and stuff. So I'm just like, I think that was kind of an eye opener that a lot of us needed. So,
I think so too. And even one of my favorite shows on HGTV, I don't know if it comes on HGTV anymore, but Tiny House.
oh yeah,
Love that show. And I was like,
I love
oh
tiny
my
houses.
God. Again, redefining what home life looks like.
Hmm.
We think
Yeah,
you got to get a job and get these big houses. Well, if that works for you, great. But for some
right.
people, I don't need that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay. And that's what makes them happy. You know what I mean?
Yes, for
So
sure.
that is the thing. I just want to encourage people to really own their amazing by really defining their lives for themselves.
Hmm.
Own that who you are is enough, and then go about just creating a life that you love, not one you're tolerating.
Ah, I love it. And so, I mean, I think we've kind of talked about it throughout, but
Yeah.
I would just kind of love for you to share, like, how has being yourself really impacted your life?
I can honestly say that since I really like started the movement, because I tell people all the time that the movement is really for me, and
Yeah.
I ask other people to come along if you want. But
Hmm.
me really embracing the principles of it has really just changed my life. I'm so much more happier. I
Yeah.
am so much more fulfilled. I'm excited about life. I was like today, I was excited to know I get to come on and have a conversation with you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
This is my life, and I love it. And I want to do more of it. I love encouraging people. I love inspiring and motivating people to live their lives, you know? So
Yeah.
I've created this. I've created this. And what has happened for me, I am a much happier person.
Yeah.
I am going about my dreams. You know, last night I was on a virtual event with a friend of mine who did a movie, and I was in his movie.
Oh,
You know,
cool.
he first asked me to be in this documentary. I was like, yeah, first, you know, like me, who? But so opportunities and things come. And it's like, yeah, why not? This is great. And so, again, the point is that it has changed my life, that I'm happier, I'm more
Mhm.
fulfilled. I feel like I'm living on purpose. I feel like I'm giving, you know, of myself to other people to help impact the world.
Yeah.
That lights me up. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I really am. And I couldn't always have said this. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
a time in my life I did not feel this way.
Yeah.
I had levels of success, yeah, but on the inside, I was like, this is not it.
Hmm.
Is there not more to life for me? This
Right.
isn't it. And so I know a lot of people are can relate. Like, this is not it. Yes, you have. I said you have the corner office, you have the degrees, you have the family, you have the this, but on the inside, you're not happy.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
not.
Well, I love that you have found, like what makes you happy and what amazing looks like for you. And I mean, I can just tell it lights you up and like it lights me up. Like I love it. Like that's why I have this podcast is I just want
Yes.
people to really own who they are and like live their best lives. And I just think it's different for everybody. So I just love it. And what message do you want to really leave with people today?
Some final message is really that really get to know who you are. I
Mhm.
know that sounds simple, but it's life changing. It
Yeah.
is truly life changing. If you just take a little time, get quiet, and just say, who am I? What do I want? How do I want my life to look like? You know, what really lights me up? Just take time to get to know who you are. Another quote I always say, the most important relationship you will ever have is
Mhm.
the one that you have with yourself.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so simple, but I love that it is really life-changing to get clear on who you are, and then that's that stepping stone to change everything and get to that place that you want to be. So,
Yeah.
and where can people find you and connect with you and join this Own Your Amazing movement?
So I always tell people to start with the website, which is ownyouramazingnnow.com. Again, ownyouramazingnnow.com. And it's information about the book is there. You can also find the book on Amazon, but you also get a personalized copy from me if you order through the website. So I love when people order the book through me because I write them a very special message, you know.
Mhm.
And so, but you can get the books there, more information about the movement, some freebies on there as well. But I also would love for people to connect with me on um, Facebook, and you can find me at Dr. Denise on Your Amazing. Again, at Dr. Denise on Your Amazing. That's the best way to find out about upcoming events that I'm having. I'm on there weekly. I come on every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do a thing called Think About It Thursday, where I just give a few minutes of inspiration and motivation just to kind of get people thinking again, to reflect on their lives and how we're living life and how we can create, you know, amazing lives that we want and we deserve.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I'll definitely share in the show notes
Okay.
all of that so people can connect with you and just really be inspired by you and start owning their amazing. I really loved this conversation and really appreciate it.
And I so thank you for having me. It has been truly wonderful and amazing. And I just love the whole thing about be you. You know, I love that.
Oh,
That's it. So thank you for creating
yeah.
this platform, and thank you for trying to reach people and give them the message that it's okay to be you.
Yes. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you for listening to the BU podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends and write me a review. I would love to hear from you. And you can find me on Instagram at BeautifulChick or on my website, beautifulchick.com. Remember, be you, be beautiful.